Hey, how's it going? My name's Nat. Let's see what's been making news. Celebrating International Women's Day, a dog stuck in a tree, and a fashion show in the snow. But before we get started, why not hit subscribe? Today is International Women's Day. The UN theme for this year is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Leela caught up with some young climate activists to find out what the day means to them.
Ella here is 15. Last year, she was the Aus Youth4Climate representative at the UN's Global Climate Summit.
We are living in a moment where we're seeing the effects of climate change on our doorsteps. I know so many people right now being affected by these floods, being affected by weather events that they said would be once in a decade, once in a century.
Iremide is also a climate activist, and she's a part of a community-led farming initiative called United African Farm.
Our aim is to grow organically, culturally appropriate foods in a sustainable way.
For both Ella and Iremide, this year's UN theme for International Women's Day, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, hits home.
Women are on the front lines of issues and things are going around. Women are affected the most. This can be Indigenous women, young women.
Living in a country with overall limited opportunity means that your exposure to climate change may result in you not having the same outcomes in life.
What would be your message to young girls that are watching this right now?
Your presence in this debate matters. You can begin advocating for climate policy changes by contacting your local MP, by expressing your concerns.
What do you hope we draw light on today?
I really want to see many more women being elected this election because I know that women know the impacts of climate change.
Rain is still drenching Sydney. Overnight, thousands of people in Sydney's southwest were ordered to leave their homes because of the risk of flooding. Emergency services have received 2,500 calls for help and made 100 flood rescues in the past 24 hours. But this rescue in Lismore, which saw some really bad flooding last week, is pretty special. Bull mastiff Winnie spent 3 days stuck up in a tree, tangled in vines. She was rescued by firefighters and brought to a vet, but Winnie's now safely back with her family. The Australian government has officially taken humpback whales off of its list of endangered species, and as Joe finds out, that's whaley big news. Get it? Sorry, it wasn't funny, was it?
The not-so-humble humpback whale is a pretty impressive creature. They grow up to 17 metres long and weigh around 36 tonnes. Every year, they migrate up and down the east coast of Australia from Antarctica, much to the delight of whale watchers. But it hasn't always been that way. The first whaling to happen in Australian waters was way back in 1791. See, back then, whales were prized for their oil, which was made by melting down their blubber. When whaling was at its peak in 1962, there was estimated to only be about 1,500 humpbacks left. But a year later, everything changed for the better. In 1963, Australia stopped hunting humpbacks. And now, 60 years later, the humpback population is around 40,000, which is enough for them to finally be taken off the threatened species list. But there's still plenty we can do to help.
For example, you can put your rubbish in the bin and don't litter at the beach.
So, hopefully the story of these majestic giants will go on long into the future.
Fashionable clothes, flags and wool. Now's where I'd make a joke about fabric, but I'm all out of material. 2,022 sheep. That's a lot of sheep and a lot of wool. They marched through the streets of Paris to mark the end of the International Agricultural Fair. The herd was led by this fellow on a horse dressed as King Henry IV of France. Oh, I've always wanted to go in a hot air balloon. It just looks so peaceful, which actually might be the point.
Our aim is peaceful sky and peaceful earth.
8 hot air balloons in Lithuania flew these massive Ukrainian flags as a show of support. And finally, to a fashion show in the snow. Well, it's not the actual snow, it's definitely indoors in Paris. But these models were inside this massive closed-off stage blasted with snow and wind. Well, that's all the news we've got for you today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Oh, and if you haven't already, why not hit subscribe? You ready? 3, 2, 1.